I've received a request. All right, I've received a request to record to the cloud. I don't know if that means that it's a request for me as the host of this Zoom conference to record to the cloud. I'm not going to be recording anything. So I suppose I also have Mariah Richardson is requesting to record this meeting locally. I will allow Ms. Richardson to do so. But the request to record to the cloud, I'm going to assume that that's a request that I record to the cloud, and I'm going to deny that request. But anyone who wants to record on their own is certainly welcome to do so. All right. So I have received the joint pre-hearing stipulation, and I obviously haven't had an opportunity to really go through it substantively, but I see we do have for Belvedere 25 proposed exhibits. I have 19 in my portal at this point, 1 through 19. Let me ask Mr. Don Kaescu, a number of these are deposition transcripts. Are these transcripts going to be used in lieu of live testimony, or are they listed for impeachment and cross-examination purposes?
Yes, Your Honor. We just reviewed your order, and your order instructed us that if we wanted to use any of the depositions for impeachment or anything, we needed to have them as exhibits. So we don't intend to use any of them as actual evidence. We'll be eliciting live testimony from all of them. I think the same is probably true for petitioners because they did the same thing we did.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then I have 8 total witnesses listed, and that appears to be for all parties. So we will get started with that. So the petitioner having agreed to proceed with the presentation of evidence, Mr. Ullo, Mr. Dunlap, I'm not sure who's going to take the lead, but you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, we'd like to call Mr. Gary Connors to speak on behalf of SR Perrott. And from a logistics standpoint, Your Honor, Ms. McMullen is the corporate representative for SR Perrott. Okay. And we're planning for her to speak after Mr. Connors. So she could stay in the room. And also, Your Honor, we would like to invoke the rule. So Mr. Dougal, Mr. Reed, Mr. Kerner, any other witness, I guess, who is planned to testify today, if you could please put them in the waiting room.
All right. So let me see who we have here. I have, and you said Ms. McMullen is the corporate representative?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Is this Mr. Ullo or Mr. Dunlap speaking? Sorry.
I'm sorry, court reporter. It's Mr. Ullo.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then this is Mr. Connors, who's going to be testifying. And then I have Martin Costello and David Reed and Jeff Corner for the department. Mr. Reynolds, are any of those three your corporate representative?
David Reed is probably my corporate representative. I have Mr. Costello in the room with me, but I will instruct him to leave the room.
All right. So as the designated representative of the department by Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Reed will be allowed to stay as the party representative. Mr. Costello and Mr. Corner, if you could make yourself unavailable. I don't see Mr. Corner on the list of Zoom participants, so I presume he's there with you.
He's not here yet. Yeah, okay. I just have in the room with me. I have Hastings Reed, who's just observing, and Mr. Costello, who just left the room.
All right. So Mr. Costello will be leaving. Mr. Corner will be leaving, and then I have Mr. Dougal. And Mr. Dougal, if you are on, I don't see Mr. Dougal on the.
Mr. Dougal is, well, he's the third square down in the second column on my screen. Fourth square down.
Oh, okay. All right, Mr. Dougal, I'm going to place you in the waiting room, and so you may be there for a little while, but I assure you we will not have forgotten you. So you are off to the waiting room, and we'll see you in a bit. All right, Mr. Dougal is in the waiting room. I have another person asking to come in. Emily Schwartz. Is Ms. Schwartz going to be called as a witness? And I don't see her on my
She's on the list. She's at the bottom, Your Honor.
list.
So she needs to be left in the waiting room as well.
All right, I'm trying to find her. Is she in under her name, or is she in under a telephone number?
Oh, I thought you saw her. I'm sorry. I thought you saw her on the list of people on the call. I don't believe she's on yet.
All right. Well, I'll watch for Ms. Schwartz. And then we have a corporate representative for the Volusia County property appraiser. And who would that be?
I don't believe anyone from that is on it either, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, if you can, I need to kind of keep an eye out to see if they pop up, and without a name, I may not recognize them. But I don't know if you can see the waiting room. I'm usually the host on these things. So if you find out that they're in there, let me know and I will place them in the waiting room. Otherwise, we'll proceed. All right. Now I have a person appearing on my screen who has been identified as Gary Connors by the petitioner. So Mr. Don Kiescu or Mr. Reynolds, do you have any hesitation or reservations that the person appearing on my screen is in fact Gary Connors?
No, Your Honor.
Let me find who's appearing on your screen.
All right, it's under Eva McMullen.
Did they just show up?
Ms. McMullen's been on for a while, and then Mr. Connors came and took her spot.
There we go. Yes, so I agree, Your Honor.
Okay, so the parties stipulate that the person on my screen is in fact Gary Connors?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right,
Good.
well, with that, I'm prepared to make a finding then that the person appearing on my screen is in fact Gary Connors. And under the authority granted by the Supreme Court for remote swearing, I will then swear you in. Mr. Connors, could I have you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. All right, Mr. Who's going to be questioning Mr.
Mr. Yulo, Judge Early.
All right, Mr. Yulo, you may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Connors.
I need to let you know who's here with me.
All right.
Noah McKinnon, one of the counsel, and Eva McMullen.
All right. And Ms. McMullen is the corporate rep. She's allowed to be there. And then obviously counsel, anyone who's not a witness is allowed to be there. So very good. Thank you,
Sorry.
sir.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Ulo.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, Mr. Connors.
Good morning.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Robert Gary Connors.
And you are employed at SR Perrott?
Yes.
And what is your role at SR Perrott?
Executive Vice President.
How long have you been employed there?
Since 1978.
Can you describe the business?
We are a beverage, food, water, soda distributor for Volusia and Flagler County.
So we're here today to talk about this air permit that was issued to Belvedere Terminals. Can you tell us how you learned about the project?
On August 2nd, I was getting my hair cut, and the lady who cuts my hair asked me if I knew about the millions of gallons of fuel that's going to be stored next to our warehouse. I told her I did not know, but I tried to find out. And I called a friend of mine, Tad Durrance, who is an adjoining piece of property and asked him if he knew anything, and he said he'd look into it, and I told him to get back to my daughter Eva with any information he found out.
Thank you. What is the name of your barbershop?
It's not his
LA
barbershop.
Salon.
I'm sorry, was that I wasn't able to hear.
LA, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
repeat it.
Yes, sir, please.
LA Salon.
Okay.
And this is the barbershop where you get your hair cut.
Yes.
Thank you. And what is the name of your barber?
Lori Butler.
So you said you called Mr. Tad Durant's. Who exactly is Tad Durant's?
He's one of the owners of Halifax Paving.
And
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. One of the owners of what?
Halifax Paving.
Thank you.
okay, and where is Halifax Paving located?
About a quarter-mile northwest of our property.
In response to your request for him to provide you with information, did Mr. Durant send you anything?
He sent my daughter some paperwork.
Did you see the information that Mr. Durant sent to your daughter?
Yes.
And just for the clarification, what is your daughter's name?
Eva McMullen.
Thank you. And the information that you saw that Mr. Durant sent to you, can you describe what it was?
There was some words regarding how many gallons of storage, showed the tanks, showed a map of the area, which didn't include our property, but I knew where it was. And that's about it.
And what day did you get your haircut?
August 2nd. I believe it was a Wednesday at 2:00.
And when did you get the information from Mr. Durant?
I think it was 2:58 the same day.
Your Honor, that's all I have for Mr. Connors at this moment.
All right. Mr. Donkiescu, anything for Mr. Connors?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Connors, you're the executive vice president and an owner of SR Perrott. Is that correct?
Yes. Sort of.
Judge, whoever iPhone is, I think they keep interrupting and I'm having a hard time hearing the witness.
All right. I see I have a Sarah Sherwood. I'm going to mute that if I can. Give me 1 second. We have enough people now that it's getting more difficult to find people. All right, Ms. Sherwood, for some reason, I am unable to mute your microphone. So if you could mute your microphone, please. There are a couple of them in here. Those are muted. They appear to be. All right, so Ms. Sherwood has, I don't apparently have the ability to mute Ms. Sherwood. I can put her in the waiting room. I can remove her. I can turn off her video, but I do not have a mute button for her for some reason, which is unusual. And that appears to be the only one that I currently don't have muted. Who is Tal A? Is that somebody? Is that one of the parties? TAL.
That's
Oh,
that's
you.
that's the
Yeah, okay.
Carlton Fields conference room.
I won't mute you guys. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go forward. And if I keep getting interference, I'll try to sort out who it might be based on their box lighting up.
Thank you, Judge. Yeah, it pops up on our screen whenever someone does, so I'll try to keep track of it too.
Okay.
So let me start over. Mr. Connors, you're the executive vice president and an owner of SR Perrott, correct?
Yes,
And SR Perrott's a closely held company, correct?
yes,
Just your wife and your daughters and you are ownership?
yes,
And SR Perrott's position is that it never received the July 7th, 2023 Hometown News Ormond Beach edition, correct?
yes,
But you were aware of the Hometown News Ormond Beach edition newspaper existing prior to July 1st of 2023, correct?
I don't know what you mean by addition. I do know the newspaper existed.
That the Hometown News Ormond Beach edition existed prior to July 1st of 2023.
Yes,
And your testimony is that you and SR Perrott first found out about the project from your hairdresser, Ms. Butler, on August 2nd, correct?
yes,
And Ms. Butler asked you how you felt about 12 million gallons, a 12 million gallon fuel tank storage farm that was going to be built next door to your warehouse. Is that correct?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. Hearsay is admissible in a proceeding of under Chapter 120. But unless it's somehow substantiated, I don't know that I'll be able to use it for the development of a finding of fact, but Mr. Connors, you can answer the question.
yes.
How did Ms. Butler know where this project was located?
Objection. She's not the witness. This is
I think that goes into speculation. I'll sustain that objection.
Let me ask it a different way. Did Ms. Connors tell you how she knew where the facility was located?
Yeah, you used the wrong name.
I'm sorry, I did that. Yeah. Did Ms. Butler tell you that she knew how she knew where the facility was located?
Yes.
How did she know?
One of her clients early in the day mentioned it to her.
Okay. And did she tell you how she knew it was 12 million gallons?
No,
Now, after that hairdresser appointment, you were able to review that permit on the very same day, correct?
I reviewed something on that day, yes.
And do you know what you reviewed?
A map.
Just a map?
I didn't read all the words, but I did see the map and I knew where it was.
So you weren't confused about the location of the facility at that time, were you?
No,
Mr. Connors, the city of Ormond Beach is a hidden and silent co-petitioner here today, aren't they?
objection, relevance. That has no logical tendency to prove or disprove a fact in this case.
Donkiescu?
Your Honor, it goes to show the whole issue here is notice. And we're prepared to show that the city of Ormond Beach had full notice of this through exhibits that are already into evidence.
Well, the city of Ormond Beach isn't a party here. The SR Perrott company is a party. So whether Ormond Beach is behind the scenes, as you might characterize it, I don't think there's anything I can do with that. I don't see that that's either relevant or material to anything I'm going to be asked to decide. So I'll sustain the objection.
Well, what is the city of Ormond Beach's mayor's name?
Objection, relevance.
How is that relevant?
Again, it's notice, Your Honor. There were conversations between the two parties.
Is the mayor of Ormond Beach being called as a witness?
He is not, Your Honor.
All right, I don't know. Again, and
Well, let me
I guess you can ask Mr. Connors if someone other than Ms. Butler told him of this permit and gave him information sufficient to cause him to realize that a permit had been issued. But I'm going to listen carefully to objections, but I'm not seeing it. But if you want to ask him that question, I'll allow that to go forward.
other than Miss Butler, have you spoken to anyone else about this project?
Yes,
And who else have you spoken with?
Mayor Partington.
Mayor Partington, the mayor of Ormond Beach.
Yes.
And when did you speak with Mr. Partington?
Maybe on Thursday, the 3rd. I'm
August
not sure. August 3rd.
August 3rd. Did you have any subsequent conversations with with Mayor Partington?
Yes.
And when were those?
I'm not sure of the date, but it was in the, actually, no, I didn't. No, what, yeah, well, yes, I did.
Okay, and
I
when-
called him,
Go ahead.
I called him again sometime.
And when was that?
I'm not sure of the date.
Mr. Connors, would that have been after August 3rd?
Yes.
All right.
And what did you talk about on August 3rd?
Objection, relevance.
Mr. Donescu, Don Kiescu, I'm kind of curious as to the relevance as well. We're here on strictly on notice. I understand the petition was filed on August 15th. Whether he may have talked to somebody before he filed the petition may go to the substance of a challenge, but I'm not sure it goes to whether or not proper notice was provided. What's the relevance of this line?
We were posited that there was conversations prior to this as well, Judge.
All right, well, ask him that. I think he's already said there weren't, but if you want to ask him that again and see if you can parse out when discussions as to this project may have occurred before August the 3rd, I'm certainly willing to listen to that, but anything subsequent, I don't see that helps me. I'll sustain the objection as to discussions with Mayor Partington after August the 3rd.
Okay.
But,
on August the 3rd, did Mayor Partington tell you he was aware of this project?
Objection, relevance.
I'm not sure I see the relevance. I'm going to sustain the objection.
I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
All right.
And Your Honor, so the record's clear for the court reporter. That was Aaron Dunlap making the objections.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Reynolds, anything on behalf of the department for Mr. Connors?
No questions, Your Honor.
Anything on redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Connors, I appreciate your participation today. As we've indicated, I think at the commencement of this proceeding, we're going to take up witnesses once and then they'll be allowed to go about their business. So in the spirit of that, Mr. Connors, you're certainly welcome to observe this proceeding as much or as little as you would like. But in terms of your active participation, you are excused from further involvement in this proceeding. And if you're appearing under the terms of a subpoena, you're now relieved from any further obligations under that subpoena.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, just for clarification for the witness, can he stay in the room from this point forward because he will not be called back? Okay.
Yes, he's no longer a witness that will be asked to participate. So as I indicated, you can observe as much or as little as you would like. So it's up to you. But thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Madam Court Reporter, just for the record, that was Joe Yulo asking that question about the ability of the witness to stay in the room.
Thank you.
All right. So Mr. Dunlap, Mr. Ulo, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, we would like to call Miss Eva McMullen
All
to
right.
testify.
All right.
And this is Joe Ulo, and I'll be doing the examination.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I have a person appearing on my screen, has a tagline on the box of Eva McMullen. Ma'am, your name is?
Eva Connors McMullen.
All right. So is there any dispute or reservation on the part of any party that the person appearing on my screen is in fact Eva McMullen?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, then I'm prepared to make a finding that the person on my screen is Eva McMullen, and under the terms of the Supreme Court's guidance as to my ability to swear witnesses appearing remotely, I will do so. So, Ms. McMullen, could I have you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Ulo, you're a witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Eva.
Morning.
Ms. Connors McMullen, where do you work?
SR Perrott Incorporated.
And what is your role there?
I am 1/3 owner and corporate secretary, and I'm also the assistant general manager.
Is Mr. Gary Connors, is he your father?
Yes.
Can you describe your company?
Yes, we are a family-owned business located in Ormond Beach, Florida, which is in Volusia County. We were established in 1962 by my grandfather. And we are a food and beverage distributorship. So we help stock all the shelves in Publix's, big stores like that, like Walmart, and then the small mom and pop stores and independent bars and restaurants, as well as large chain restaurants.
And how many people do you employ at your company?
Our current head count's at 194.
And where do most of those employees work?
Here at our facility, which is located at 128 North US Highway 1 in Ormond Beach, Florida.
So with regards to your warehouse complex at 1280 North US 1 there in Volusia County, can you describe the day-to-day activities?
Yes, so we receive product from our suppliers. We temporarily store that product in our warehouse space. Then we take orders from our customers, or I'll call them retailers, and then build those orders and then deliver those orders to the retailers, customers at the store level.
Do you have contracts with large product distributors?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Overruled. I mean, I think this gives me a little background for the petitioner, so I'll just overrule that objection.
I can proceed.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Sorry. So we have distributor agreements with our suppliers, the products that we bring in, if that's what I think you were asking. So.
Yes, ma'am. And those distributor agreements, could you just name, what would an example of one of the companies that would be a supplier of yours?
So Molson Coors, Constellation Brands, Heineken, Howell's Chips, Essentia Water, wineries. We have about over 80 different suppliers.
And then your company receives from the suppliers the food and beverages and then distributes it, and you have agreements to supply that to the local businesses in your region?
I'm going to renew
Correct,
my
the
objection,
distributor.
Your Honor.
Hang on, hang on.
I'm going to renew my relevancy objection. I understand the background, but we're getting a little deep.
Overruled. I don't know that this will make an appearance in my recommended order, but for purposes of background, I'm interested. So overruled.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Who do you distribute? Like, well, you mentioned this earlier. I think you said just Publix, mom and pops. You transfer from the suppliers to them. You are transferred. Can you be described as a transfer portal for the area?
Yes, or like the middleman, and then we like stock the shelves that you would see at the store level.
Thank you. Are your products that you receive from the suppliers, are they ever exposed to the open air?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Overruled. And I will note that in the second amended petition, I think I recall seeing that there was some concern that Molson Coors had some kind of quality control agreement with SR Perrott, and that might be jeopardized. So that could, I think, be into the substantial interest being affected. So,
Your Honor, I don't know that that's before the court at phase 1, though.
well, it's standing to bring this proceeding in general. So
Understood.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead, Ms. McMullen.
Yes, so when we receive the product, it's in the open air. When we load our trucks for the orders, it's in the open air. And additionally, when our employees are using forklifts coming in and out of our facility and walking in and out, we're exposing stuff to the open air, exposing our products to the open air.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'd like to bring up and insert into the record Petitioner's Exhibit 4, which is Bates number petitioner number 000042. So we could talk about the location with the witness.
All right.
I can share right now. This is Aaron Dunlap, Your Honor. I can share. I'll be sharing from the Aaron Dunlap screen.
Ms. McMullen, appearing on the screen in front of you, can you see, is this accurately showing your facility and the vicinity surrounding it?
Yes.
Can you identify your warehouse complex on this aerial photograph?
Judge,
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure. Was this moved into evidence?
It hasn't been yet, but she
I-
can discuss it and then move it into evidence.
Yes, sir. I didn't hear if it had been moved.
Yeah, the only things I have in evidence so far are the joint exhibits. So nothing other than that has been moved or received.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. McMullen, would you like me to repeat the question?
Okay, so you want me to identify our facility on this map, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you can see where it says SR Perrott Inc., but we're basically the building in between the railroad tracks, and that's US 1. Square looking building. I'm not sure how to describe it on the map here exactly, but there is a pin on there.
Is it correct to say that you are northeast of the pin on the map that says 874 Hull Road?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, before we get too far down the road, we'll be using this exhibit a few times today with various witnesses. can we move this into the record as petitioner's exhibit 4? It is on our exhibit list and it's bait number 42.
All right, Mr. Donkeyescu, any objection to petitioners 4?
No objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Reynolds?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, petitioner's exhibit 4 is received in evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. McMullen, can you describe the surroundings around your facility?
Yes, so as you can see, directly across the street, across US 1 from us is residential neighborhood, which is, I believe, Ormond Lakes. Then directly south of us, there is an office, like, I guess you call office condo complex that has a bunch of offices. Then we have another residential area down on south of us, which is, I believe, Bear Creek. And then to the west of that is the Ormond Airport. And then to the west of that is the sports complex for Ormond Beach, the public schools use. And then if you move over east of that is Halifax Paving. And then along US 1, there are restaurants, there's retail, there's like an Ace Hardware, there's Broken Spoke Saloon, Iron Horse Saloon. So it's kind of a mixed bag of properties and what they're used for.
And looking at this map, can you identify for the court your understanding of where the fuel terminal will be?
Yes. As far as I was told and seen, the facility would be directly behind our warehouse, about 30 yards from our warehouse, along the railroad tracks to the immediate west of us.
Is that, so looking at the figure, would that be southwest across the railroad tracks?
It's almost due west. I wouldn't even say south.
Okay. Can you describe your warehouse complex?
Yes, so we have 150,000 square feet of storage for our products. And then another 20,000 square feet of office space, lobby, and there's a hospitality training space. Then we have 2 fountains, a parking facility, like parking lots, and then a exercise walking path for our employees with exercise equipment.
And within your company, you said you have 194 employees. How do you manage and communicate within your company?
So each department has a department head, which could consist of from anywhere 5 to 20 employees underneath each department head. And those departments have meetings, you know, whenever they need to. It could be daily, it could be weekly. And then we as an executive staff meet monthly for staff meetings to review anything from like the previous month, any issues. That's basic communication.
How did SR Perrott first become aware of the Belvedere project that's the subject of this matter?
As we've said before, our executive vice president heard about it at his haircut. And then I was sent information about the project via email.
And what day was that?
August 2nd.
Thank you. What did SR Perrott do in response to getting that information?
We immediately tried to contact our local officials, local like Volusia County commissioners, the city. And then from there, I mean, I think we contacted the newspaper to find out like if anybody had any additional information.
Did you contact the Florida Department of Environmental Protection?
No, not immediately.
Did you eventually, or did you send a letter to the Department of Environmental Protection?
Yes, after we were told, I believe it was published somewhere that we were told that we had so many days to submit an appeal, and we viewed that as like an appeal letter. So that's what we submitted. And I think that was on August 15th.
Did you do anything else?
No, well, we were contacting people periodically, and then we tried to get some kind of legal representation because we didn't really know what we were in for or what we were doing.
Ms. McMullen, how is SR Perrott substantially affected by this action?
Well, as far as my understanding, there's going to be millions and gallons of fuel and petroleum products being like stored and put on a railway right next to us. So I would say it could affect our employees with inhaling emissions and odors. So I don't know how that would affect them. We also are a FDA registered facility. Again, with odors and emissions and whatever comes out of a fuel terminal, I don't know how that would affect our FDA registration. And also going back to the distributor agreements that we have quality control audits that happen, and they do visit our facilities unannounced and, you know, can tell us and jeopardize our business that way. Not, you know, to mention that these products go and are on the shelves of the public stores. So
Just to make sure that the record is clear, when you say the FDA, who are you referring to?
the Food and Drug Administration.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions for Ms. McMullen at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Donkiescu?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. McMullen, thank you for walking us all through that exhibit. Can you tell us, Halifax Paving, which you showed on that exhibit, they make concrete, correct?
Objection,
Honestly,
speculation.
Well, if Ms. McMullen knows, don't speculate, but if you know what they do and how they do it, Ms. McMullen, you can answer. I'll overrule the objection.
I believe it's asphalt.
They make asphalt. You have to answer verbally, I think.
Yes.
Do you know what Halifax Paving is, their property is zoned?
No.
Okay. And your warehouse is 150,000 square feet?
Yes.
Are you an industrial use?
No.
At 150,000 square feet, you don't believe that SR Perrott is an industrial use?
Objection, asked and answered.
Oh, yeah, I think she's giving you the answer. She doesn't know. So sustain.
You listed a number of concerns that you feel gives SR Perrott standing, including FDA and licensing. Is that correct?
Yes,
And those are all financial concerns. You're concerned about the finances of SR Perrott, correct?
yes,
You were aware of the existence of the Hometown News prior to July 22nd, 2023, correct?
yes,
And you're a board member of the Ormond Beach Chamber of Commerce, correct?
Objection, relevance.
How
Your
is that
Honor,
relevant? Go ahead, Mr. Dunkowski.
It goes to notice, Your Honor, and I'm getting there.
All right, I'll give you a little latitude. Overruled.
yes,
Okay. And you regularly attend board meetings at the Ormond Beach Chamber of Commerce?
yes, sir.
Okay. And that's at 165 West Granada Boulevard?
I believe that's the address.
And are you aware that there's a newspaper rack at 165 West Granada Boulevard with the Hometown News Ormond Beach edition inside the Chamber's building?
Yes,
Now, you mentioned that SR Perrott has around, I think you said 194 employees,
yes,
and almost all of those employees live in Volusia County.
not, I don't have the exact number, or not all of them. Some are in Flagler.
Is it most?
Yes. It's fair, yeah.
But SR Perrott's position is not a single one of them read a copy of the July 7th, 2023 Hometown News Ormond Beach edition?
Not to my knowledge.
Well, I'm asking, is that SR Perrott's position that not a single one of them read a copy of the July 7th, 2023 Hometown News Ormond Beach edition?
Yes,
And SR Perrott's position is that none of them accessed the Hometown News website between July 7th and July 22nd, 2023.
not to my knowledge.
Again, I'm asking you, is that SR Perrott's position that none of those people none of your 194 employees access the Hometown News website between July 7th and July 22nd, 2023?
Yes,
But you never checked prior to filing this petition, did you?
no,
SR Perrott never asked any of its 194, well, 100 of its 182 employees who are not on the executive board if they saw the July 7th, 2023 Hometown News Ormond Beach edition.
no,
And SR Perrott never asked any of its other 182 employees if they visited the Hometown News Volusia.com between July 7th and July 22nd, did it?
no,
But you did spend a lot of time emailing and drumming up opposition to the project once you found out about it, didn't you?
Objection, argumentative.
I don't know how it's relevant. Once they found out, if we're assuming that August 2nd is the date they found out, how is it relevant as to what actions the petitioner may have taken to drum up support for its position?
Your Honor,
I mean, we're here just on notice. So,
well, the petitioners are also arguing that the application should have been noticed because it's a public important project as the standard, and we believe they're going to elicit testimony relating to the number of parties that submitted comments after the notice period. And so this is just countering that evidence, showing that the reason is not what the petitioners would posit.
all right. I don't think it's prejudicial for me to hear this, so I'll overrule the objection and provide a little latitude. So, Ms. McMullen, if you recall the question, you can answer it. If you need it restated, that's fine.
please restate it.
You spent a substantial amount of time drumming up opposition to the project once you found out about it, didn't you?
I wouldn't say it was drumming up. We were trying to obtain information.
Well, you talked to the city of Ormond Beach, correct?
Yes,
You emailed and had discussions with Commissioner Troy Kent and Brower with Volusia County.
yes,
And you, this is you personally, correct?
yes,
You sent a letter to the county council.
yes,
You sent letters to other representatives and agencies.
yes, but I'd like to back up to the county council. That was actually signed by all 4 of us on board.
So SR Perrott sent a letter to the county council.
Yes, correct.
Did you draft that letter?
Yes,
And SR Perrott, through you, emailed at least 10 Ormond Beach businesses in mid-August, asking them to write DEP as well, correct?
I was making them aware, yes, and asking them to write if they, yes, yes, they could.
Each email included a copy of your letter and asked them to send one to DEP as well, correct?
Yes,
And Tad Durant's with Halifax Paving, who we talked about earlier, you sent him an email saying, here's the letter we sent to DEP if you want to send one, correct?
yes,
And that was on August 15th, correct?
yes,
So we talked about on August 2nd when SR Perrott suggests it first found out about the project. When you received that document from Halifax Paving, you knew where the project was, correct?
after reviewing it, yes,
After reviewing the document.
yes,
And there's no other property in Volusia County that has an address that starts with 874 Hull, is there?
Objection, speculation.
Ms. McMullen, if you know the answer to that, you can answer it, but don't speculate. I'll overrule the objection and she can answer if she knows.
I do not know.
Have you looked at whether or not there's another property anywhere in Volusia County that starts with 874 Hull?
Objection ambiguous. There's no time frame in that question.
Overruled. Have you ever looked to find that out, Ms. McMullen?
Yes,
Okay, and did you find any property in Volusia County that had an address that started with 874 Hull?
yes,
What property? This property, correct?
yes,
Any other properties besides the subject property?
if my memory serves me correct, there's Hull in DeLand.
Well, but my question is specifically 874
Right.
Hull. Is there any other property that you found other than the subject property anywhere in Volusia County that's address starts with 874 Hull?
Not to my recollection.
Okay, I have no further questions, Judge.
All right, Mr. Reynolds, any questions for Ms. McMullen?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Ullo, any redirect for Ms. McMullen?
Just a few, Your Honor.
Okay.
Ms. McMullen, you mentioned Mr. Donke asked you about the issues with air quality and how it would affect inventory and your business. Would it also, would it affect, are you concerned about its effect on the food quality?
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
I don't know that that's particularly leading. It doesn't call for an answer. It may be a yes or no response, but I'll overrule the objection. You can answer, Ms. McMullen.
Yes, yes, we are.
Thank you. Mr. Donke asked you about, strike that. Mr. Donke talked to you about your ability to understand the location of the fuel terminal upon your getting information from Mr. Tad Durant's the information you received from Mr. Tad Durant's, what was it about that information that was so helpful to you to know exactly where the fuel terminal was going to be?
That document had a map, which our facility was not on, but we could see where it was.
Thank you. Mr. Donkey, I asked you questions about your search for properties that may or may not have the address 874 Hall as a prefix. Before you sat on your computer and did searches for this, were you aware or were you certain that there wasn't another 874 Hall property anywhere in Volusia County?
Objection leading.
All right, if I can interrupt for one moment, I have a person who's appeared now a couple of times, Judy Robin. Ms. Robin, I'm going to inactivate your camera and mute your microphone. You'll still be able to observe the proceedings, but since you're not a party, it's a little distracting to have you on the open screen. So I'm not cutting you out, but I am going to stop your video and mute your microphone. Oh, looks like you've done it on your own. Thank you. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Ulo.
I could rephrase the question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, that's fine. Ms. McMullen, did you need to do computer Google searching in order to determine your answer to Mr. Donkeyski's question regarding the 874 Hall Avenue issue? Hall prefix issue?
Not sure I understand what you're asking.
How did you find out that there was no other 874 Hall?
After I don't really know how to answer that. After we determined, I guess, went per the map. I don't.
What did you do though? His question was particularly relating to, is there another 874 Hall? What did you do to answer that question?
Oh, we did a search, like a regular Google search. Again, came up with, there was a DeLand, and I don't remember the exact address, but that's all we saw.
Without doing that search, you would not be able to, would you know?
No.
With regards to you drumming up interest in this project, we have multiple people that have logged in to this hearing from remote locations. Are you aware of any place where they would have understood where this hearing was and how this is out there?
Objection, Your Honor. First of all, counsel's testifying, and second of all, leading and calls for speculation.
Well, this is a public proceeding, and anybody who wants to appear for any reason is allowed to do so. I'm not sure what I do with that information. Mr. Ulo, well, how is that relevant?
I'll withdraw the question, Your Honor.
All right.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right. Well, with that, Ms. McMullen, thank you for your participation. I know you're the corporate representative for the petitioner, and I expect that you'll be sticking around to watch. You're welcome to do so. But with that, your active participation in this proceeding is concluded. So
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll mute my mute.
Okay.
We'll mute now.
Yeah, you can mute, but you can stay on since you are a corporate representative. I don't mind having you appear on the screen. All right. So Mr. Ulo, or Mr. Dunlap, whoever's handling it, who's the next witness for the petitioner?
Your Honor.
This is, oh, Patrick, did you have something to say?
No, yeah.
Oh,
yes,
I'm sorry, Mr. Reynolds. You know,
that's
I've done that probably more than I haven't, and I apologize. Mr. Reynolds, any questions for Ms. McMullen?
No, I didn't have any questions for Ms.
Okay.
I just was going to interject and ask if we could take a 5-minute break.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to know who our next witnesses was going to be, and then we can take a quick break.
Yes, Your Honor. This is Aaron Dunlap. I'll be questioning the next witness, and the next witness is Mr. Martin Costello with DEP.
Okay. All right. And Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Costello is ready and available to go.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Well, we will take it's 10:47. Well, let's come back at 11 o'clock. That'll give everybody time to get up, stretch your legs, and get back, make a cup of coffee, et cetera, et cetera. See you at 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Judge.
This is the court reporter. I'm back, Your Honor.
Okay, great, Ms. Renchen, thank you.
You're welcome.
Petitioners are back, Your Honor.
Okay. Looks like Mr. Don Kiescu is back. Wait for
We are,
Mr.
Your Honor.
Reynolds to pop on and we will get going.
And Madam Court Reporter, this is Aaron Dunlap with Petitioner. I'll be the one examining Mr. Costello.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, Mr. Reynolds,
Yes, sir.
I presume that the person seated to your right is Mr. Costello.
It is indeed, Your Honor.
All right, so I have a person appearing with Mr. Reynolds that has been identified as Martin Costello. Is there any objection or any reservation that the person appearing is in fact Mr. Costello?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, so with that stipulation, then I'll make a finding that the person appearing on the screen with Mr. Reynolds is in fact Martin Costello, and under the guidance of the Supreme Court with regard to swearing remotely, I will do so. So Mr. Costello, could I have you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. And Mr. Dunlap, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Costello, thank you for your time this morning. Moving forward, what is your role with the department?
I'm a permit engineer at DEP.
And how long have you been with the department?
31 years.
And for that amount of time, how long have you been involved in reviewing air permit applications?
I would say about 3/4 of my time have involved that.
And ballpark, have you processed over 100 air permit applications roughly in your role?
Yes.
What I'm going to pull up now, Your Honor, is joint exhibit number 1. And the bait number is joint 000031.
All right.
Share the screen. And Mr. Costello, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
What is this document?
It's the attachment. It's the application in narrative form.
And this would have been submitted by Trinity Consultants, as it states. Are you aware if that's the consultant for Belvedere?
Yes.
And you reviewed this, correct?
Yes.
What type of project is this for?
For a fuel terminal.
What type of fuel terminal?
You mean what types of fuel?
No, meaning is this an inland fuel terminal? Is it on the coast? Is it rail sourced? What type of fuel terminal is it?
Inland. It is rail sourced also.
And in your time with the department, have you ever worked on an inland fuel terminal before, processing an application?
This was my first fuel terminal application.
Are you aware if there are any other fuel terminals in Volusia County?
I'm not aware of any other fuel terminals.
Are you aware of the amount of fuel that will be stored at this facility?
Yes.
I'm going to go down to bait number 35 in this exhibit. Bear with me, please. And Mr. Costello, looking at this page, when you look at joint 35 or joint exhibit 1, Bates 35 and 36, the capacity in gallons, this corresponds with your understanding of what the permitted facility is.
Yes,
Let me scroll down just so you can see everything. And roughly storage facility on the site, is that roughly 20 million gallons?
yes,
Are you aware of how many gallons of fuel we transferred a year at this site?
yes,
And let me go down to joint bait number 40 in the same exhibit. And table 3-1 with the 357 million for gasoline, the 108 for diesel, et cetera, et cetera. Is that your understanding of what's been permitted for this site?
yes.
When reviewing this application as the processor for the permit, what graphics or maps did you examine?
The ones in the application.
Let me get to the correct number. I'm going to reshare the screen, but I want to spare everybody watching me page through. I'm going to share my screen again, Mr. Costello, for your review. This is marked still joint exhibit 1. This is still the, how did you describe this? The summary application?
Yeah, that's a good description.
Okay, so the summary application that Trinity submitted, this is joint exhibit 1, bait joint 61. When you reviewed this, this is one of the maps that you were speaking about that's part of the application.
Yes,
And I'm going to scroll down to joint bait number 63. And in the application, I'll zoom in to make it easier for everybody to see. Is this the graphical diagram? It's your understanding that this is the graphical diagram that was included in the application?
yes,
And in this graphical diagram, do you know if Hall Avenue is listed any place on this graphical diagram?
it's not.
And from the sketch of this property, were you able to determine what other properties or uses were surrounding this permit site?
It's hard from that figure.
Were these the only 2 figures in the summary application?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look through it.
Okay, we can do that very briefly.
Are you asking were there more maps?
Yes.
I don't recall any other maps.
Okay. We're going to move on to joint exhibit 1, bait 79 and 80. Joint bait number 78. Mr. Costello, are you familiar with this that I have up on the screen, the technical evaluation and preliminary determination?
Yes,
Did you create this report?
yes.
And what exactly is this report?
It reviews the applicable rules It helps us to write the permit.
I'm gonna
Describes,
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I apologize.
describes the project.
And this, for brevity's sake, I'll refer to it as the TEPD. Do you know if this TEPD is used by the department in deciding whether or not to move forward with a notice of intent to permit?
It's one of the ways.
Right, along with the application and the other permit materials, correct?
Yes.
I'm gonna scroll down to joint bait number 79. Mr. Costello, on figure 2, for the location of the Ormond Beach terminal, you created this figure for the TEPD, correct?
Well, I grabbed it from a Google search from Google Maps. So I
And
didn't
this figure 2 says that the address is 874 Hull Road for the permit location, correct?
Correct.
And scrolling down to figure 3, did you also choose this aerial for the property to include in the TEPD?
Yeah, again, from Google.
And this also says 874 Hull Road is the property address, correct?
Yes, sir.
And do you think this aerial is an accurate depiction of the surrounding properties for the permitted site?
I mean, it shows Halifax paving.
Does it show the railway?
That switching yard is yet to be built, but the railroad tracks are not shown. It looks like there's railroad tracks in the picture there.
Do you see
Yes.
any of the other properties that surround this?
No, sir.
I'm going to stop sharing this exhibit. And I'm going to move on to what's been marked Petitioner's Exhibit 4, which has already been accepted into evidence. I'm going to share the screen. Nope, that's the wrong one. I apologize. As you can see, this is Petitioner's Exhibit 4. Bait number 000042. Mr. Costello, is this a more accurate depiction of the permit site and the surrounding areas than what you included in your TEPD?
It's definitely broader.
I'm going to stop share. And I'm going to move on to Petitioner's Exhibit 2, which is bait number 000027. Let me zoom in because that's quite small right now. Mr. Costello, do you recognize this screenshot?
I've seen that software before.
And what software is this?
It looks like the DEP. Mapping software.
And this mapping software is otherwise known as Map Direct.
Yeah, it says that at the top.
And this is the department's own internal GIS system.
Yes, I think so.
Your Honor, I'd like to move petitioner's exhibit 4 into evidence.
Objection, foundation.
I think it was 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Exhibit 2, Your
Okay.
Honor.
So I think that's
Department would join in the objection.
Well, I think Mr. Costello has indicated what he believes it to be.
Also, Your Honor.
How has there been a lack of foundation? Mr. Costello, I think, has described that it's the DEP's mapping software for GIS. How is there a lack of foundation based on that?
He's indicated that it looks like the software. We haven't established anything about what's on this map or the data that's been pulled up or anything like that. This is a screen print from software that can be manipulated, and so that's our foundation objection.
I think that may be a different objection, and I think it may be capable of being dealt with on cross-examination. I will receive petitioner's exhibit 2 in evidence over objection.
Thank you, Your Honor. And showing this exhibit, do you see anywhere on this where Hall Avenue is shown on the site?
I do not.
I'll stop sharing that now. Mr. Costello, while you were permitting, well, I'm sorry, strike all that. Mr. Costello, while you were processing this application, did you receive any comments on the proposal during the notice period?
2.
Did you receive any comments after the notice period?
Yes.
Do you know how many?
Not exactly. It's more than a dozen, I believe.
Mr. Costello, in your experience as a processor of these sorts of applications for the department, is it usual or unusual for you to receive comments on an air permit application?
In my experience, it's unusual. It's once in a while we'll get a comment or 2, but it's unusual. A lot of times no comments are received.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. And did you receive a direct call before the permit was issued questioning the address of the facility site?
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
Overruled.
You can answer, Mr. Costello.
Okay. I had a telephone note of the period just before the final permit. Sharon Trescott, I believe, called, and she had several questions. I think she mentioned in passing, and where's Hall Avenue? And I didn't have a response to that. But her questions had more to do with traffic and other issues about the project. But I did have a written note that I found later when I supplied.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. Are you familiar with Florida Administrative Code Rule 62-1? 110.106 notice of application.
I am familiar with it.
Do you know if the department published the application?
We did not publish the application.
I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, who wants to go first, Mr. Don Kiescu or Mr. Reynolds?
I would defer to the DEP since it's their witness.
All right, Mr. Reynolds.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Costello, where did you get, or where did the department get the address of 874 Whole Avenue?
I got an email from Emily Schwartz that provided that address, so the applicant's consultant
Emily Schwartz works for the applicant's consultants?
for Trinity.
For Trinity Consultants. And Trinity Consultants were the consultants for Belvedere, the applicant in this case? Okay. And do you recall when you got that email from Emily Schwartz?
In March, probably mid-March.
That was before publication of the public notice?
Yes.
Okay. Did the department get the address of 874 Whole Avenue from any other source?
Yes, I think the property appraiser's website showed that address for that property.
Property appraiser website showed the address of 874 Whole Avenue?
Yes.
Okay. What is a greenfield site?
It's a site that we don't have a permit on, hasn't been permitted in the past.
And what type of permit did Belvedere apply for with regard to this facility?
So an air construction permit for a minor source.
For a minor source? What makes the determination whether a source is a minor source?
So there's a couple of factors.
Objection relevance.
I'm not sure how I'll treat that, but I'll overrule the objection. Again, we're here on notice and not on the substance. This may ultimately go more to the substance if we get to that point, but I'm interested enough to that there may have some relevance in terms of what has to be published and what doesn't have to be published. So I'll overrule.
Thank you, Your Honor. I won't go far. I was just kind of giving a general little background information.
I mean, the simple answer is if it's less than 100 tons a year of
100 tons.
criteria air pollutants, or if it's less than 25 tons of total hazardous air pollutants.
Okay.
That's a simple answer.
Okay. You mentioned that you had received a phone call from Miss Sharon Trescott.
Yes, she called more than once.
Do you know the date that she called you?
I tried to go back on our phone system. It only goes back so far, and I did find that she had called. I believe it was after the comment period had ended. I don't recall exactly the date, but I think I had taken a screenshot or took a picture of my phone.
You recall if it was in August of 2023?
I don't recall if it was. I recall it being after the comment period ended. I don't recall if it was before the final permit was issued.
Okay.
We did include her as a CC on the final permit. But I think I had received calls before the final permit from her.
But after the publication of the public notice.
Yeah, and she never sent us any um, requests during the public notice period.
Okay. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Donkiescu, any questions for the witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Costello, in your experience, do greenfield sites always have mailboxes?
No, they don't.
Are greenfield sites common when reviewing FDEP permit applications?
Sometimes they are. It's a mix. We have some new facilities.
Besides the maps that petitioner showed you in the initial application, how else did the applicants describe this property in that application?
As being off of Harmony Avenue.
Did they give other ways of identifying it through latitude and longitude or things of that nature?
Yes, I had UTM coordinates for the site.
And what does UTM mean, if you know?
I think it's Universal Transverse Meridian. UTM.
So that's data that would take you to a pinpointed location on the earth.
Yes, like a lat long.
And did they also provide latitude and longitude of this facility?
I don't recall.
Okay.
They may have.
Did you ever Google search 874 Hull Avenue? I guess Did you ever Google search 874 Hull Avenue, Ormond Beach?
That's how I found the map that I printed in my technical. It was an oversight. I didn't realize that it said Hull Road when I put it in there.
But the search you conducted was for 874 Hull Avenue, and it brought up that map that was in the exhibit?
Yes, it did. Both of the maps.
And that aerial photograph that appears in the technical report, were you trying to exclude anything in that image?
No, I was trying to maximize the details of the plan. I really wasn't trying to exclude anything.
And you indicated, I think, that you received 2 timely public comments on this draft permit. Is that correct?
Yes,
Did either of those discuss the address of this property? I mean, of this project?
no,
I have no further questions, Judge.
All right, Mr. Dunlap, any redirect for this?
Yes, Your
witness?
Honor, just a few
Mr.
brief ones.
Costello, go ahead.
Mr. Costello, do you know if Rule 62-110.1066 makes any differentiation between minor or major sources in the department's determination of whether or not to publish an application?
I don't know offhand.
That's fair. Do you know in the notice of intent whether the latitude and longitude of a permit site is included in the notice of intent?
We have a written notice that goes to the applicant to publish, and then we have the notice to be published in the newspaper. That notice to be published in the newspaper does not have the lat longs.
Does the notice to be published in the newspaper include UTM coordinates?
No. But those can be found by following a link in that notice in the newspaper.
Understood. And your testimony to Mr. Dukiescu's question that for the figure, and I'll bring it up just so you can see it again. This is marked Joint Exhibit 1, bait number 80. You said you were trying to show as much of the facility as possible. Is this the figure you were trying to say where you were trying to show the facility?
Yeah, that in the map.
This map
Yeah,
on figure 2.
yes.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Anything further before we excuse Mr. Costello? Mr.
Nothing, Your
Reynolds, Mr. Donkiescu?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Costello, I appreciate your participation today. By agreement of the parties, you are now excused from further active involvement in this proceeding. You're certainly welcome at this point, since you won't be recalled as a witness, to stay and observe as much or as little of this as you would like. But in terms of whether you have to stick around, you do not. And to the extent that you're here under subpoena, you're now excused from any further obligations under that subpoena. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, who's next?
Your Honor, this is Aaron Dunlap again. The next witness will be Mr. David Reed from DEP.
All right. What I'd like to do, I think, is go ahead and complete Mr. Reed, and then maybe we'll take a short lunch break before completing, if that works for y'all.
I think that works well because I believe Mr. Kerner was expected to be available early this afternoon, right, Patrick?
Yeah, Mr. Kerner is planning to be over here at 1 o'clock. If you want me to tell him to be here a little bit earlier, I could do so.
1 o'clock will probably be okay. We're making pretty good time, so we're about halfway through our witnesses, and but yeah, we'll go ahead and proceed with Mr. Reed, and then we can break until 1 o'clock, unless there's a short witness among these other ones that we might be able to knock out. But for instance, I don't know how lengthy the Volusia County property appraiser witness might be, but anyway, just food for thought. But in any event, I have a person who has been represented to be David Reed, who is seated to Mr. Reynolds' right. Is there any objection or any reservation as to the identity of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Well, then I'm prepared to make a finding that the person appearing on my screen with Mr. Reynolds is in fact David Reed, and under the guidance provided by the Supreme Court for remote swearing, having made that factual finding, I will swear you in, Mr. Reed. If I could have you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. And who will be questioning Mr. Reed for petitioner?
This is Aaron Dunlap, Your Honor. I'll also be questioning Mr. Reed.
All right.
This is the court reporter. Is it R-E-E-D?
It's R-E-A-D.
R-E-A-D. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Dunlap.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Reed. What is your current role with the department?
I am the air permitting supervisor for the Division of Air Resource Management.
And how long have you held that role?
I think 11 years.
And what are your duties in that role for the review and processing of air permits?
Well, when we receive an application, I assign it to one of my project engineers, permitting engineers. They develop the permit package, the draft permit package, keeping me briefed on the progress of the project. And then they give me a draft permit package to review.
I review it, make any necessary changes. I sign it and then I send it to be clerked and to be issued as a draft permit. And then after the appropriate comment and petition periods have passed, I will sign the final permit and it will be sent to the clerk to be unclerked and issued as a final permit.
And I'm going to share now what's been marked Joint Exhibit 1, date number 78. Mr. Reed, do you recognize this document?
It appears to be the technical evaluation and preliminary determination that was included in the draft permit package for the Belvedere terminals in Ormond Beach.
When you're making your decision with respect to permit applications, how do you use this report?
This report is the technical justification for issuing the draft permit, showing that we have reasonable assurance that it'll meet the applicable federal and state rules.
And you reviewed this TEPD prior to issuing the notice of intent for the Ormond Beach facility?
Yes, I did.
We're going to go down to base stamp 80. Mr. Reed, are you familiar with this image?
Yeah, I've seen it before.
Is this an accurate depiction of the location of the property that was permitted?
I believe so.
Do you recall if you made a prior statement that's inconsistent with this testimony that it's an accurate depiction?
I don't recall that I did.
Going back to your deposition, page 40, lines 16 to 23. Do you remember if you stated that the permit site, quote, seems sort of out in the middle of nowhere?
Objection, Your Honor, improper impeachment.
Yeah, if you can give the witness an opportunity to review his deposition. Mr. Reed or Mr. Reynolds, do you have a copy of the deposition that you can show Mr. Reed and let him take a look?
I do.
I have a copy I can pull up.
What was the page, Mr. Dunlap?
It is page 40, lines 16 through 23.
Your Honor, the question that was asked in that deposition is, do you know who the neighbors are?
Okay.
Well, once again, I think that based on the photo, there didn't appear to be any close by facilities. And I did not know what what neighbors were, but once again, we were permitting that facility, not surrounding establishments.
Okay. And I think the question posed originally was, does the point on the map or does the map accurately depict the location of the project?
That's correct.
All right. So, all right, I'll take Mr. Reed's testimony and line it up as best I can.
We can, thank you, Your Honor. We can move on.
Okay.
Mr. Reed, at the time you were processing this permit, the TEPD gets issued, you review it, and you review all the other materials, and ultimately you're the one that makes the decision of whether or not to move forward with issuing the notice of intent to issue permit, correct?
That's correct.
And once the notice of intent is issued, What is the next step?
Well, in the notice, in the package, the draft permit package, there's a public notice that the permittee or the applicant needs to publish in a newspaper in the of general circulation in the area of the project. And that starts the permitting clocks, the comment period and petition period. There are 14 days for each. And if we receive comments, we would address the comments in the final determination, which is included with the final permit package. In this case, I think we had 2 comments that were addressed.
And after the applicant publishes the notice required by rule, do they have to submit anything to the department?
Yes, they need to submit an affidavit stating that it was published in a newspaper.
For ease of reference for the rest of the questioning, is it fair to state that this is the proof of publication referenced in the applicable rule?
That is correct.
And at the time of reviewing this permit, what was the department's process for reviewing proofs of publication received from an applicant?
Oh, we would receive the, usually, and we would receive a copy of the actual notice along with a certification notarized stating that it ran on such and such a date in this newspaper, whatever the newspaper was.
When, at the time of processing this permit application, did you or anybody involved with reviewing this permit application compare the proof of publication received with the requirements of proofs of publication stated in the department's rule?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance?
Overruled.
Oh, we received the notarized affidavit that it was published in the newspaper, and that's what we took as it meeting the requirements.
So you did not compare it to the rule?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered and argumentative.
I don't think so. I don't think that's necessarily argumentative. I'm not sure he really answered that particular question, so I'll overrule it. Do you recall the question, Mr. Reed?
Yes, we received that proof of publication with the notarized statement that it ran on such and such a date in that newspaper. And we took that as sufficient proof of publication of the public notice.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. I'm going to move on and I'm going to share Joint Exhibit 1, bait number 133. Mr. Reed, have you seen this document before?
Yes, I have.
Is this exhibit the proof of publication that the department received in July regarding the publication of a notice for the permitted facility?
That is correct.
And you're aware that the rule requires that the proof of publication be made, as the rule states, quote, a uniform affidavit in substantially the form prescribed in section 50.051 of the Florida statutes. And for clarification, that's rule 62-110.106 sub 9.
What was the statutory citation?
Yes, I'm sorry, Your Honor. The Florida Administrative Code Rule 62-110.106 subparagraph 9.
Right, but it then said that the affidavit has to be substantially in the form required by chapter 50, and what was the subsection?
Section 50.051 of the Florida statutes.
All right.
Now, Mr. Reed, when you received this publication, you just testified you did not compare it to the rule. From this publication, do you know if the Hometown News complied with section 50.051 of the Florida stat, or I'm sorry, is this proof of publication in substantially the form prescribed in section 50.051?
Objection, compound.
It might have been a little, yeah, if you could break that up, I'll sustain the objection. Not. I think-
Yes, let me rephrase.
Okay.
Mr. Reed, from the face of this affidavit, can you tell if this is substantially in the form prescribed in section 50.051?
Objection, calls for a legal conclusion.
I think the affidavit and the statute both speak for themselves. So I don't know that I need this witness to draw a legal conclusion on that issue. I'll sustain the objection.
Understood, Your Honor.
I've got 50.051 here, and I'm looking at it, and I can see page 133, and I can draw that conclusion.
Understood, Your Honor. I'll move on. Mr. Reed, when you received this in July, did the department proceed to issue the permit?
After the petition and comment periods had passed, we issued not immediately, I think it was in early August 1st, if I recall, that we issued the final permit package.
Prior to issuing the permit, did the department receive any other proofs of publication?
Not that I'm aware of.
And it's your understanding that Florida Administrative Code Rule 62-110.106 sub 5 requires the department to receive a proof of publication that meets the statutory requirements within 7 days of the publication?
Objection, again, calls for a legal conclusion.
I think it does. I'll sustain the objection. Again, I'm fully capable of figuring out whether it meets the standards and what the ramifications of that might be.
Understood, Your Honor. I'll move on. Mr. Reed, after this permit was published, did the agency change how it reviewed proofs of publication it receives?
Objection, Your Honor, subsequent remedial measures.
Sustained.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to move on to what's been marked Joint Exhibit 1, bait number 288. So please bear with me 1 second until I get there so nobody has to watch me scroll. As you can see at the bottom, this is Joint Exhibit 1, bait number 288. Mr. Reed, can you see this? Can you see this? Do you need me to enhance it?
I can see it.
And there's an email from Steven Spraker that you are CC'd on page 288. Do you recognize this email?
Yes, I recognize this email.
And when you received this email on July 7th, What did you do with it?
I believe,
Go ahead.
I passed it along to the project engineer, Marty Costello, and I filed it.
And in the email, it states that the property is 874 Hall Road, and the date of this is July 7th. Do you know if that's the day that the notice of intent was published?
Yeah, I believe it was published on July 7th.
And at the very top, it says from David Reed to Martin Costello, but the date is July 26th. Do you know why you waited until after the deadline to file a petition passed before forwarding this to Mr. Costello?
I can't recall. I might have just been cleaning up the files after the comment period, petition period had passed.
I don't have any further questions at this time.
Okay. Mr. Reynolds, any questions for Mr. Reed?
No, Your Honor, I do not.
All right. Mr. Don Kiescu, any questions for Mr. Reed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Reed, Belvedere has previously permitted a different site with the department. Is that correct?
Objection, relevance.
I don't know that I have enough to tell whether it's relevant or not at this point. I'll overrule. I'll sort out what to do with it.
We issued a final permit for another Belvedere project that was in Fort Pierce. Similar.
That was my next question. They were very similar projects.
Yes, they were.
Did you receive any comments to that permit application?
I think we might have received one.
Did you receive an administrative challenge to that permit application?
Objection, relevance.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we're going with something that happened in Fort Pierce. It may have just been Belvedere's good fortune in Fort Pierce. So what is the relevance of this?
The relevance, Your Honor, is that the petitioner is asserting that the initial application needed to be published because it was a project of great public whatever importance or whatever the statutory language is, and is using that, or is arguing that the DEP's actions in not doing that were unreasonable. We're showing prior information that the DEP had available to it at the time, showing that their actions were in fact reasonable in not requiring that.
Yeah, I think there's going to have to be some proof as to this project if it's great public importance with regard to a publication of the application. So I'm not sure what happened in Fort Pierce is really going to play much into that. I'll sustain the relevance objection as to Fort Pierce.
Was there anything about this project that raised concerns within the department that it might be of heightened interest to the public?
Say, no, it's a minor facility. The submissions were, in the big scheme of things, minor. No, we did not anticipate heightened public interest or controversy to be associated with this project when we received the application.
I'm asking my assistant here to pull up what is it? Joint 1-288. And I'll ask that can you share screen there? Great. Now, counsel for petitioner just asked you about this email, correct?
That's correct.
And go ahead and scroll down. Since we read emails backwards, we'll start at the bottom. And the initial email was not to the department, it was to the mayor of Ormond Beach. Is that correct?
Objection, hearsay, and relevance.
Well, I think this entire email has been opened up. The door's been open to discuss it. So I'll for purposes of completeness, overrule the objection, and I'll make whatever of this as it warrants. It's overruled.
Do I need to re-ask the question, or do you, do you remember?
Mr. Reed, you remember the question?
Whether it was, this was addressed to the mayor,
To the city of Ormond Beach.
Ormond Beach, yes, that's correct.
And this email talks about seeing an announcement in the newspaper. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And what was the date of this? Actually, what was the date of all these emails up until the final email of July 26th?
it's July 7th.
And that was the date that the notice of intent to issue was published in the hometown news?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I have no further questions.
All right. Mr. Dunlap, any further questions for Mr. Reed?
I don't have anything further, Your Honor.
All right. Well, Mr. Reed, thank you, sir, for your participation today. By agreement of the parties, all questions that you might be asked to answer have now been exhausted, and you are free to go about your business. You're certainly welcome to stay for as much or as little of this proceeding as you would like, but your active participation is now excused. And if you're here under subpoena, you're now excused from any further obligations under that subpoena. So thank you, sir.
Roll.
All right. So we were going to talk about doing a lunch break here. Let me ask, I still have Mr. Dougal cooling his heels in the waiting room. I know he's here from the hometown news media group. How long do the parties anticipate Mr. Dougal's questioning will take?
At least an hour.
Good while.
Yeah, Judge,
All right.
that might be a longer deposition, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know if somebody wants to contact Mr. Dougal and let him know he can do something else for the next hour, but I know that we have our next witness, I think is did you say Mr. Corner is next?
Yes, Your Honor. We're moving on to Mr. Kerner and Patrick. He'll be available at 1.
Okay.
Available at 1 o'clock, yes.
All right. Well, it's currently 12 o'clock for more or less, so we'll take a standard 1 hour lunch break and resume the hearing at 1 o'clock. I do have an interesting issue, and I want to get it out there while I'm thinking about it. And this is something for y'all to consider when you're preparing the recommended orders in this case. But I understand there's an issue with regard to the adequacy of the affidavit of publication. So the question would be, if the publication has been, if the publication is compliant with the standards for a notice of proposed agency action and has been properly advertised and made available, what is the who would have standing to raise an issue of the inadequacy of the affidavit? And I don't recall seeing any case law on that, but I'm going to do, as I typically do, I'll do my own research, but that might be something y'all want to put on your list of things to discuss in the context of your proposed order.
And Judge, you'll see in our pretrial stipulation that Belvedere objected to that coming in at all because we don't think it's appropriate in this phase 1.
Okay.
Anything regarding the sufficiency of the affidavit.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those. If notice was provided and the world was made, was put on notice of the proposed issuance of a permit, what is the outcome if there is a determination that the affidavit to the department has some inadequacy involved? Just might be interesting, but okay. Now that I have that out there, I can erase the little star next to that testimony, and y'all will know that I'm interested. So it's currently 12 o'clock on the dot. So I will see everyone back here in 1 hour. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, this is the court reporter. I'm back. Your Honor, I'm back. This is the court reporter.
Thank you, Ms. Renchen. All right, looks like we have everybody we need. All right, so let's go back on the record. So I take it this is Mr. Kerner.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. All right. So I have an individual appearing on my screen seated to the right of Mr. Reynolds, who's been identified as Jeff Kerner. Is there any dispute or any reservation that the person appearing here is in fact Jeff Kerner?
No, Your Honor, not from petitioner.
Not from Belvedere either, Your Honor.
All right. Well, with that, then I'm prepared to make a finding that the person on my screen is in fact Jeff Kerner. And under the guidance provided by the Supreme Court for remote swearing of witnesses, and having made that finding, I will swear you in. Mr. Kerner, can I have you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. And who will be questioning Mr. Kerner?
Judge, this is Joe Yulo doing the questioning on this one.
All right, Mr. Yulo.
Mr. Yulo, would you mind asking the witness to spell his name for me, please?
Absolutely. Good morning, Mr. Kerner. Could you please state and spell your full name for the record?
Sure. Jeff Kerner, Koerner.
Thank you, Jeff. Are you, Mr. Kerner, are you employed by FDEP?
I am.
How long have you been employed by the department?
Since 1999.
And what is your position?
Currently, I'm the Director of Air Resource Management.
What are your responsibilities in this role?
So we oversee the Clean Air Act program for Florida. We interact with EPA. We have a grant with EPA for doing the regulatory business of the Clean Air Act. We do permitting and compliance oversight throughout the state. And we have a section that does permitting for mostly major sources and innovative projects. And now they are doing some projects, minor source projects for some of our districts. We also have an air monitoring program that has site monitors throughout the state.
How long have you been in your current position?
Since 2016.
Do you routinely receive a list of projects that are going through the permit application process in your division?
I do. My permit manager, David Reed, sends me a spreadsheet of all of our active permitting projects being done in the division in Tallahassee each Monday.
So was this permit application for the Ormond Beach terminal, was this application on that list?
It was.
Did this permit application, are you familiar with the requirements of Rule 62, 110, 106, subsection 6? Which is the, thank you. Did this permit application raise any initial concerns for you?
It did not. It was a minor source air construction permit.
What is the process that the department uses when analyzing an application to determine if it has to be published under the rule 62-110.106 sub 6?
And so that's publishing a notice of application. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we look at the project lists. I look at it with my manager and Hastings Reed, the deputy director. And we're basically looking for, is it a municipal waste combustor? Is it a medical waste incinerator? Is it an incinerator of any kind? Kind of like buzzwords that we've heard throughout over the last few years where we think there might be some controversy.
Are there any employees in the district office or in a local program in this area that assist in this process? Or is it completely handled in Tallahassee?
Well, so this is, I believe, in the central district office, and that is one of the districts where we've recently taken over permitting due to some vacancies that they've had. So, but they still do compliance in those areas.
Would the district office be involved at the permit application phase?
They can be,
Were they in this instance?
not to my knowledge.
Within the process of your permit review and the application for permit review, could any of the reviewers in this process raise concerns regarding a need for publication under Rule 62-110.106 sub 6?
Right, it would start with the permit processor and then go through David Reed, the permit manager, and then they could bring that up, like I said, on our Monday meetings.
Does the department consider surrounding land uses when it does evaluations under Rule 62-110.106 sub 6?
Objection vague as to what time period, and that's a very broad question, Your Honor.
I don't know that it's unnecessarily broad. I'll overrule the objection. Do you understand the question, Mr. Kerner?
I think I do. How about if I answer it this way? Generally, when we issue an air construction permit for a minor source like this, it's independent of land use or anything. In other words, that permit could be good in any county, in any municipality.
Did the department consider the location of the Belvedere project in relation to its surroundings during this permit application process?
Well, I mean, the permit engineer, as part of their process, is to, put a map of Florida in the technical evaluation and a plot plan and provide that information. So in general, what is, around that area. But I don't know that, can you ask the question again?
Court reporter, could you reread the question, please?
Did the department consider the location of the Belvedere project in relation to its surroundings during the permit application process?
It is part of the application and it's reviewed, yes.
Did you review the application or the permit before it was issued? You personally?
I did not know.
Did any of your engineers visit the site during the application process?
I don't believe they did.
Is it true that the department has not received significant comments for many of its air permits over the past 2 or 3 years?
Generally, we don't receive comments specific to the permit itself on our projects. That's true.
In your 25 years with the department, have you ever permitted a project where multiple local governments have passed resolutions in opposition to the project?
Objection, relevance.
Yeah, I'm not sure where the relevance is on this, but I'm going to overrule the objection and I'll sort out the relevance once I get a little better understanding of where we're going.
Yeah, I don't recall one, no.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce into evidence petitioner's composite exhibit 1, which is Bates number 0001 through 25.
Judge, we again object to relevance. Number one, they're after the comment period. Number two, I'm not sure what issue before the court any of this is going towards.
I think the first point is the question I would have. I'm only looking at page 002.
Yep.
And it has a date of December 2023, well after the notice period, if the notice was sufficient.
That's the
It
clerk,
would-
Your Honor,
it-
that's the clerk's certification of it. I'm sorry.
These are certified documents from the clerk
Oh,
of the
okay.
various, I could explain the exhibit a little bit, Your Honor, because the witness has not seen it.
Well,
but-
and this one, all right, so now you've showed me the document. It shows that it's a resolution that was adopted October 18th, 2023.
Yes.
If the notice was sufficient, it was after the notice period. If the notice isn't sufficient, it doesn't matter if the local governments objected or not, because Perrott will have an opportunity to challenge the permit. So I'm not sure where local government objections fit into my determination of timeliness of the petition. None of these are parties. None of these entities have intervened or sought party status. So I'm just I'm not seeing the relevance of these unless there's something. Again, you said there's 25 pages, so there may be something beyond page 7. But so
Your
far I
Honor,
haven't seen anything. Go ahead.
No, Your Honor, they're all resolutions of the local surrounding governments regarding this project.
Okay, but after the
Yes, Your Honor, they all are after the period, the comment period involved. Yes, Your Honor. And
I'm going to
to-
sustain the objection. I just don't see that that they're going to play in my determination of whether the notice was sufficient, B, whether any of the deficiencies that have been pointed out are going to be determinative of the notice, and ultimately whether the petition filed by the petitioner was timely.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, was withdrawn.
Okay.
Did the department, returning to Mr. Kerner, did the department obtain press clippings about this project?
I get regular Google email alerts. And so I did see some articles about this project.
So this project did make the headlines.
I'm going to object, Your Honor. Vagueness, there's no foundation. We haven't been given any time frame.
Yeah, I'll sustain the objection as posed, but perhaps Mr. Ulo, you could rephrase it a little bit and narrow it down.
Sure. I'll try to do that, Judge. Thank you.
Okay.
So as this project was in the newspaper, is the fact that a project is in the newspaper an indicator of a heightened public interest for the project?
Objection foundation, Your Honor, and leading.
I mean, I'm going to give him a little opportunity to lead because it's a kind of there's not been a finding of adverse witness, but this is kind of DEP's witness. So I'll give him a little bit of latitude, but I'm more interested. I mean, I guess I'm interested in to tie into anything that I can consider. I'm interested in the dates on which these articles may have been published.
Your
so
Honor,
if you
these
could maybe narrow him down, kind of focus him on that, and then I'll make a determination.
These dates were after the permit was issued, Your Honor.
All right. Well,
So-
again, I'm gonna, a determination of whether there was a heightened public interest is relevant to whether or not the application should have been published, and if the heightened public interest was made evident after the notice of intent was published, then I'm not sure what I can do with that.
Your Honor, if we just discuss this for a minute before we move on.
Sure.
The issue of the heightened public interest or the controversial nature of the project is largely independent of the time at which any of the public would have become aware of the project. In this case, if the notice was deficient, for whatever reason the notice was deficient, when the public finally did become aware, the measurement of whether or not a project has a heightened public interest is time independent when you consider just overall evaluations of the project itself. That would be the petitioner's thoughts on why these are relevant.
All right. I always like to throw out things that kind of are interesting at the time that the parties may want to flag in their notes and give me some discussion in their proposed orders, but this would seem to be one. If the department has made a determination that a project, because of its general nature, isn't one that would be expected to be of heightened public interest, and proceeds along with the processing of the application, and a notice of proposed agency action is ultimately published, what is the remedy for the determination that it's not of heightened public interest? Because the public still has an opportunity to file a petition. So again, I don't know the answer. I'm putting this out there for something that may be of interest, and I'd ask that the parties discuss it in their PROs. But so what was the question? Now I've completely blanked out my mind. Maybe you could restate the question, Mr. Ula. I'm probably going to give you a little bit of latitude on this because I don't know the answer to that question, and so I think I'm likely to let you explore it a bit. But it is something that is of interest.
Yeah. Judge, I think you stated the question very well for us to evaluate in the PRO for your benefit. It's similar principle to the resolutions in terms of the timeliness of the determination. And what I would say is, before we go there, it really just goes to, if there's deficiencies in the process or maybe something wasn't evaluated, then other issues, when it becomes a heightened public interest, that could be delayed due to failures by the department to do certain things. So, but this is all, I agree with you. I think it's good material for you to evaluate in the PRO and have each party be able to talk about the issues.
Okay. All right. But like I said, if there's some factual information that you need to support your PRO argument, I'll give you some latitude with Mr. Kerner.
One sec, Your Honor, can we take one moment?
You bet.
Thank you. Your Honor, my colleague, Counsel Dunlop, has advised, or at least mentioned, that with this understanding of the parties, we would reproffer Exhibit 1, Joint Exhibit 1, back into the record. Petitioners, I'm sorry, not joint. Petitioners Exhibit 1, which is Bates numbers 1 through 25, back into the record, with the understanding that the parties will be able to evaluate it and explain the relevance in the PRO.
All right. Mr. Don Kiescu, Mr. Reynolds, I presume that you maintain your objection.
We maintain our objection, Your Honor, and I'd also say we attempted to bring in evidence earlier on of the St. Lucie County situation where there was no objections and no petition filed, which also is germane. If this is going to be something considered by Your Honor, we think that's also germane to the same issue. So we would counter proffer with that evidence, which the court sustained an objection towards.
Yeah. I'm not sure I agree with regard to Fort Pierce. I think that's a different county, different location. It may just be a matter of coincidence that there wasn't any resolutions or anything of that sort. But Volusia County, I think I'm willing to let it in. Again, the objection is relevance. I'm not a jury. I'm not going to be confused or prejudiced by something that may have arguable relevance coming into the record. I'll be able to sort out what I can use and what I can't. I think I will reverse my original denial of Petitioner's Exhibit 1. I'll receive it in evidence, but there's going to have to be I think it's going to be a bit of a heavy lift, Mr. Ulu, in convincing me that there's something in there that I can consider if they're all things that came in after the date of the public notice. Again, assuming the public notice is effective, which I obviously haven't come to any determination on that, but I'll let it in for whatever use I can make of it. But you'll need to convince me of what that might be.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. So petitioner's composite exhibit 1 is received in evidence over objection.
Thank you, Judge.
Director Kerner, is Martin Costello the permit processor for the Ormond Beach Terminal permit application?
He is.
Is it true that, and you mentioned, you may have mentioned this earlier, I apologize if it's repetitive. Is it true that the permit processor evaluates compliant, well, actually, this is a different rule. Let me move back to build foundation, Judge.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So with regards to Director Kerner, are you familiar with the department's rule for acceptance of proofs of publication under Rule 62-110.106 sub 9?
I am.
Thank you. Is Martin Costello the permit processor for the Ormond Beach Terminal permit application?
Yes.
Is it true that the permit processor evaluates the compliance of proofs of publication with Rule 62-110.106.9?
Yes, in conjunction with his manager.
And in this case, Director Kerner, that manager is Mr. David Reed?
Correct.
I have no further questions, Your Honor, for this witness at this time.
All right. Mr. Reynolds, any questions for Mr. Kerner?
I do not have any questions for Director Kerner.
All right. Mr. Don Kiescu, any questions for Mr. Kerner?
It's actually my co-counsel, Mr. Dove, who will
all
be
right,
handling this witness.
Mr. Dove?
Hi, sir. Does FDP require notice of applications to be published for all air permits?
Does not.
All right, I'm going to show you Joint Exhibit 1, Bates 132, which is the public notice of intent to issue the air permit. You recognize that document there?
I do.
And we scroll down just a little bit. All right, so there's a link here in that middle paragraph under the project file. Do you see that link?
I do.
If you were to click on that link, where does that take you?
I believe that takes you to one of our document search website document searches, and you can get the draft permit documents, the permit, the appendices, the notice, and the technical evaluation.
And those are all the documents that would have been available to a member of the public who clicked that link and searched this permit on July 7th when this is published?
Correct.
Okay. We can remove that exhibit. What kind of information does a proof of publication provide you? An affidavit, proof of publication?
Basically, that it was published by a newspaper on a specific day, and the newspaper meets the requirements of the rules.
All right, I'm going to show you Joint Exhibit 1, Bates 133. You recognize this document?
For the date. Yes.
Would the public ever receive a copy of this? Is this distributed to the public?
It's not distributed to the public, but it's part of the permit file.
So the actual notice that's published in the newspaper is what's distributed to the public.
Right, it's available in the newspaper.
to make them available of the permit, pending permit.
Correct.
Are you aware, we can take that down, thank you. Are you aware of any FDEP staff conversations between August 1st and September 25th about the address for this project?
Objection, speculation.
Were
Well, I
you
think
part-
yeah, go ahead and rephrase. I'll sustain the objection. Go ahead and rephrase it, though. I don't think it's, I think it's an appropriate question, so maybe it's just the phrasing.
Thanks. Were you present for any FDP staff conversations between August 1st and September 25th about the address for this project?
I am aware there were conversations about the address, but I have no idea of what that timeline was.
Okay, I'm going to show you what's been admitted into evidence already as joint exhibit number 3. And that's Bates. What's the Bates on here? We scroll down. All right, let's scroll to the bottom again. This is an email chain, so. And we can scroll up just a little bit so we get those 2 emails. Okay, scroll up a little bit, that middle email. We want to take a second just to take a look at that. Were you aware at any time, were you aware that the Volusia County property appraiser changed the address they list in their database for this property from 874 Hull Avenue to 874 Hull Road in late August?
I was recently made aware of that. We believe that was to be the case because of the information that some of that the permit processor and administrative assistant had looked at the property appraiser site and verified the correct address. And then we believe that it was later changed. And I think we've got something recent, very recent, that was the property appraiser saying that that was done on August 22nd after the issuance of the final permit.
Okay, so prior to the issuance of the final permit and prior to the notice, the property appraiser website listed 874 Hull Avenue.
That's my understanding, yes.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you. No further questions.
All right. Mr. Ulo, any further questions for Mr. Kerner?
Sure, one quick one. Mr. Kerner, did you personally look at the property appraiser's website at all?
I did not.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
All right. Mr. Kerner, that does it for you today. In accordance with the agreement of the parties, all your examination is complete, so you are now free to go about your business. You can stay and observe as much or as little of this proceeding as you would like, but if you're here under the terms of a subpoena, you're now released from any further obligations, and thank you for your participation.
All right, thank you, Judge. Thank you.
All right. Get up to our witness list. All right, who's next?
Your Honor, petitioners would call Mr. Kirk Dougal if he's available, and I believe he might be in your waiting room.
He is. He's been very patiently waiting there since 9 o'clock this morning. I'm sure he'll be delighted to be called aboard. So we'll see if
Your
he's
Honor,
interested.
petitioner had previously indicated they think this might take like an hour and a half. Is now a good time to take a break then?
Sure. Yeah, it's 1:30. Let's come back at 1:40 and we'll get going with Mr. Dougal. In fact, if any of you have Mr. Dougal's cell phone number, you might want to give him a call and let him know that he can, he may be doing other things, so he can expect to be called in 10 minutes. All right, thank you.
Your Honor, this is the court reporter. I'm back.
Thank you, Ms. Wrenchen.
You're welcome.
All right, and waiting for counsel for the petitioner, and up there they are, and waiting for Mr. Reynolds. While we're waiting, can I go ahead and bring Mr. Dougal in? Anybody have any? All right.
Judge, if you were talking, you were incredibly low. There's really
I've
no
gotta say,
volume
I-
right now.
All right, I'm gonna have to. I think for some reason works much better when it's like this on this ear, but my ear gets tired after a while. I tried to flip it around and it just doesn't work. as
It's
well.
still significantly lower than it was earlier.
Really?
That sounds like it might be on your end, guys, because we're hearing him loud and clear.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah,
You are
sounds,
correct.
Okay.
he sounds fine on my end too.
All right. Good. I'm my usual boisterous self then. Excellent. All right, Mr. Dougal, thank you for being so patient and waiting. I understand you are with the Hometown News Media Group. Is that correct? Oh, and you're on mute, so you need to unmute yourself.
Sorry. That is correct.
Perfect. All right. All right. So I have, and Mr. Dougal is being called by petitioners.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. So I have an individual who is appearing on my screen with the tag and who has identified himself as Kirk Dougal. Is there any objection or any reservation as to the identity of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr.
No, Your
Reynolds, none. Okay. All right. So then I am prepared to make a finding based on the stipulation of the parties that the person on my screen is in fact Kirk Dougal. And with that, under the guidance provided by the Supreme Court for remote swearing, I will do so. So, Mr. Dougal, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. And who will be questioning Mr. Dougal for the petitioner?
Mr. Yulo, Judge.
All right, Mr. Yulo, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Mr. Dougal. Could you please state your name for the record?
Kirk Dougal,
And I suspect the court reporter would appreciate it if you could spell the last name, Mr. Dougal.
Dougal.
All right.
Thank you. And where do you work?
Hometown News.
And what is your role there?
I am the group publisher for the Southern newspapers.
Based on your knowledge of this matter in the Hometown News, your paper's involvement in this case, does it relate to its publication of DEP's notice of intent to issue the air construction permit for the Belvedere terminals?
That is my understanding, yes.
How many editions of your paper, the Hometown News, are there that run in Volusia County?
In Volusia County, a little more than 54,000.
How many editions of the paper, not actual copies or numbers of households?
I'm sorry, I did not understand the question. I'm sorry.
I'll give an example. So we're talking about the Ormond Beach edition.
Okay,
So, yeah.
okay.
Thank
Just
you.
the Ormond Beach. Yes. Okay. Just the Ormond Beach. 19,697. We actually print a little over 20,000, 20,500 or so.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dougal, I might be misstating my question. I'm just talking about the papers itself. So Ormond Beach edition would be an example of one edition in my mind. Yeah.
My misunderstanding. I'm sorry. We have 5 editions in Volusia County. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's no problem at all. Could you name the editions?
Ormond Beach, Port Orange. Oh gosh. I don't handle them on a day-to-day basis. Hang on a second.
It's okay. There are 5 editions.
Yeah, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
I'm sorry, Deltona, DeLand, and New Smyrna.
Okay, thank you. Very, very good. I appreciate that. And can we'll pull up an exhibit that'll help our next part of the discussion. This is joint exhibit 133 that I think we've all seen before.
Joint Exhibit 1, page 133.
Yes, Your Honor. Bates page is 133, Joint Exhibit 1, page 133. Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate that. Mr. Dougal, do you recognize this publication, this proof of publication?
Yes, that is a publication for the advertisement we were discussing.
Okay. And did this publication run in the July 7th, 2023 edition of the Hometown News, Ormond Beach edition?
Ormond Beach edition, yes.
Yes. Okay. And then before, and then the client or the party that hired or retained the services of publication, is that the respondent in this case, Belvedere Terminals?
Yes.
Okay. And in the process of deciding to publish in the Ormond Beach edition, do you know if the Hometown News offered various options for publications to the company Belvedere?
Objection, relevance.
Okay.
What's the relevance, Mr. Ulo?
Your Honor, we're talking about the 10% issue that is required under Chapter 50. And the relevance goes to some of the things that Mr. Dougal was talking about earlier when he was talking about the distributions. And it goes to decisions that were made by the applicant in determining where to publish and decisions that were made in that process.
Judge, our
Well,
mental state doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of what caused the applicant to publish in the Ormond edition of the Hometown News, I mean, that's the one they picked. If it's a deficient method of publication, it's deficient regardless of why they may have chosen it. I'm just not seeing the relevance. But we're probably spending more time discussing the objection than we would save by just doing it. If it's a relevance objection, I'll sort out the relevance, give it the weight it deserves. So, Mr. Dougal, you can answer the question if you understand it.
Yes, as a matter of course, they were offered to run in more than one paper if they desired.
Thank you. And what was the deadline for their publication of the July 7th legal notice publication?
That would have been, we would have had to had that by noon on the preceding Tuesday, which would have been the 5th, the 4th. Actually, no, I'm sorry, because that would have been the 4th. It would have been the Tuesday, the Monday at noon because of the holiday.
Monday at noon. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, we'll take down this exhibit.
So the Monday prior to July 4th?
Wait.
No. I'm sorry, Your Honor. The Friday edition would normally close on Tuesday at noon. However, that would have been the 4th of July, so we would have deadlined a day early. So it would have been Monday.
Right. So the Monday immediately prior to July 4th,
Correct.
which would be
the 3rd.
presumably okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So as you look at the exhibit in front of you, Mr. Dougal, Heather Donaldson is the person that signed the proof of publication. What is Ms. Donaldson's role with the Hometowns News when she executed this?
She runs the inside sales department, which performs the legal ad functions.
At the time of her execution of this proof of publication, is this the standard proof of publication that Hometown News used?
Yes, this is the one that comes straight out of the system.
Okay. After August 1st, 2023, did Belvedere ask the Hometown News to do additional proofs of publication for the July 7th publication?
They did. They requested different verbiage. We have a handful of customers who will occasionally ask for different, but not normally.
How many proofs of publication did the Hometown News ultimately provide for this legal advertisement?
I believe just the 2.
Okay. Can you give me the dates when each proof was executed?
No, this would have been in in the final 7 day or the 7 days after the first one, because this is the one that comes out of the system. I do not have in front of me what that second one would be.
Do you know who executed? Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Strike that. Yeah, please take that down. Thank you, sir. Do you know, you mentioned that Belvedere reached out to you to request a different language in the proof of publication.
Mhm.
When, do you know when they reached out to you to request that?
Objection, relevance.
Overall,
No, that would have been part of what we gave to you during the deposition, and I do not have that date in front of me.
Okay, we'll see if we can pull it up to help refresh your recollection.
Okay,
Okay, and then we'll show it to you so you can take a look at it.
that'd be great.
Sorry, Judge, can you give us 1 minute?
you bet.
Thank you. Okay, we were able to find, our, this is joint exhibit 1, and it's bait number 190. Okay. Okay, Mr. Dougal, I'll give you a second to look at this before we start talking about it.
Mhm.
Okay, are you good?
Yeah, I can see it, yes.
Okay, okay, great. Looking at this document, the date is November 2nd, 2023. Does that help you in terms of when you would have received a call to request update or at least another affidavit?
Yeah, that's when that would have happened, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
You take that down. When Belvedere reached out to you right around that time, did they provide an example of the language they were looking for for the new affidavit?
They did.
Okay. And was that language that Belvedere was requesting, was that oh wait, let me stop and put in a foundational question. Your knowledge with the Hometown News, you're one of the people within the Hometown News, are you one of the people that has the most knowledge of the requirements of Chapter 50 for your paper?
Yes, I would say so.
Thank you. And was the language that Belvedere requested, was that the uniform affidavit from Section 50051 Florida statutes?
Objection, calls for a legal conclusion.
Overall, it probably is right on the cusp, but I'll sort it out. Mr. Dougal, you can answer if you know.
It's close, but it's not word for word.
Okay. But you are familiar with the uniform affidavit that's required in Chapter 50051, and that's why you're able to answer that question, sir?
Yes. Mhm.
Thank you. Let's introduce, Your Honor, we'll introduce Joint Exhibit 1, which is Bates number joint 000191.
Okay, well, Joint Exhibit 1 is already in its entirety, so everything in JX1 is in.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Okay. Mr. Dewey, I'll give you a chance to look at this exhibit.
Mhm.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm ready.
Okay. Mr. Dougal, is this your signature on this document?
It is.
And do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Okay. And what is this document?
This was, Belvedere had requested basically the same sort of second proof of publication that they required, that they asked for after the first one. But this was one for an ad. This is still the July 7th one. Yes.
So this would be the third
This would be a
affidavit.
third. Yes, I'm sorry. This would be a third. You're correct. Mhm.
Third affidavit on,
Mhm.
okay, and third proof of publication.
Mhm.
And the date on this is, what date is that?
December 19th, 2000.
December 19th.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dugal. Okay. You take that exhibit out.
What page, I'm sorry, what page of Joint Exhibit 1 was that third one?
191, Your Honor.
Mr. Dugal, do you recall receiving a subpoena asking the Hometown News for certain documents relating to this case and your publication?
Yes, I've received a couple of subpoenas.
Okay. Do you remember at any time in response to that subpoena, did you provide documents relating to the Volusia County Tax Collector's decision to use your paper to publish its delinquency list?
That's correct. Mhm.
In that publication for the in that publication for the Volusia County Tax Collector, was that publication to be done in accordance with Chapter 50?
That's correct. Mhm.
How many editions in Volusia County did the tax collector run their delinquency list in?
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we're going with this. I'm going to overrule the objection and give a little latitude, but I'm going to have to be convinced that this is somehow relevant to my decision, but I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
It appeared in all 5 editions of the Volusia Hometown News.
And before the tax collector decided to publish in your paper, did they work with you to verify your qualifications?
They did.
Did you explain to the tax collector's office how your paper was qualified to publish legal notices in Florida?
Yes, we did.
How did you explain your qualifications to the tax collector's office?
That we were published weekly. We were more than 25% in English. We had more than 10 publicly accessible sites across the county. We print news of general interest. We are more than 25% delivered to home or business addresses and requested. And then since we do not do a mail permit, we do the 10% threshold of households. We also show them the copy of the CV, the Circulation Verification Council audit, which we have done every 2 years to be in compliance with 50.011.
In your process of presenting your qualifications to the Volusia County Tax Collector, did you represent that the Hometown News qualifications to meet the 10% circulation have nothing to do with your web presence because you are overqualified with your print?
Objection, Your Honor. We're pretty far down relevance at this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure I really even understand the question. Could you rephrase that question and then I'll rule on the relevance of it?
Sure. Mr. Dugal, when you were presenting your qualifications to the tax collector, did you rely on the web-based presence of the paper?
We did not, because the audit at that point, we were not using Google Analytics, which is a industry standard, when the first audit was done in 2021. So we just represented the print at that point.
And what was the date on this discussion?
It would have, let's see, the tax guide ran in May. I'm going to say probably the March time period.
And what date do you remember?
2023.
Yeah, 2023. Of course, though, at that point, we would have been using Google Analytics. I'm just saying, I was just telling them they did not need to look at the audit for the Google Analytics.
Mr. Dougal, and that was because they used all 5 print editions in the county, correct?
That was correct.
Thank you. And just to we get the witness to make sure I confirm this, I believe it was mentioned, I don't know if it was Judge Early or if it was you, but the ultimate publication on this was May of 2023?
It would have run by statute, it runs the last 3 weeks of May every year. So it would have run whatever those dates of those Fridays were, those last 3 weeks in May of 2023.
Thank you. Okay, returning to the Belvedere publication, is it your understanding that the July 7th, 2023 publication of Belvedere was required to have an audience of at least 10% of the household of Volusia counties to be compliant with section 50011?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you recall, so we'll talk a little bit about this. This is a little bit of math, so please bear with me. Do you recall what is the decennial household number of households for the hometown news that you use in determining that 10%?
From the U.S. government census website is 232,301.
Okay. And do you know, I believe you mentioned this number earlier, the print single copies of the Ormond Beach edition?
19,697.
Okay. And doing the math, do you concur that the publication of the Ormond Beach edition alone would not reach the requisite 10% of households in the county for print copies?
But without the statute allowing the online unique visitors, these print would not qualify for the entire county.
Thank you. Do you perform Google Analytics for the hometown news?
Yes.
Do you know if Google Analytics changed its analytics methods and dashboards during 2023?
It changed its dashboard on July 1st of 2023.
Prior to that change, was it harder for the hometown news to be able to determine whether unique monthly visitors were coming to your website from in-state or out of state?
It was much harder. You had to go through and add up individual cities rather than having a state number provided in the dashboard.
And that's prior to the change on July 1st.
But yeah, June 30th, July 1st. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. The subpoena that we sent to you, sent to the hometown news on or about November 21st, 2023, requested, I quote, all documents and other evidence relating to the total number of online unique monthly visitors from within Florida to the hometown news Ormond Beach edition's website for the time period of January 1st, 2023 to the present. Did the hometown news provide documents in response to this question?
I did.
Relevance.
Overruled.
I did.
Did you ultimately supplement your November 21st, well, your response? Did you ultimately supplement your first responses to the subpoena response that you did to the November 21st, 2023 subpoena? Did you provide, let me rephrase that because it's very confusing. Did you supplement those responses at a later date?
Objection relevance.
I'm not sure what the relevance is at this stage of the questioning, so I'll overrule.
Okay, you want me to answer then, sir?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. If you're asking me that, did I send paper copies of the dashboard to you? Yes, I did, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. And what day did you do that?
It was after the deposition.
Well,
So I want to say on Friday, the Friday following the deposition, perhaps. Perhaps, oh, no, I'm sorry, the Monday or Tuesday following the deposition. I did that at work over the weekend.
so Monday or Tuesday, so when you did that, I'm sorry, you said you did that work over the weekend?
Yeah, a lot of that
Okay.
was done over the weekend, yeah.
I appreciate your diligence. Okay, the Monday after, just so we can get the record, I don't know if you want to look at your calendar and let me know what that day would be.
Well, you have to remind me the day of the deposition, to be honest. November 22nd was the date of the deposition?
No, December 13th was the day of the deposition.
Okay. Then I believe all of that information was sent to you then on the 18th or 19th, either the 18th in the late in the day or the 19th in the morning.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions for this witness.
All right. Who's going to start for the respondents?
Sorry, I was writing, Judge. I will leave that up to the DEP. We
Mr.
can go
Reynolds?
first if they can.
Mr. Reynolds, you want to start?
I don't have any questions for Mr. Dugal.
All right. Well, then, Mr. Don Kiescu, I guess you're up.
All
Or
right,
Mr.
Judge, I'll do them. Mr. Dugal, when legal notices are published in the hometown news, are they also published online?
They're published on our own website, as according to statute, and they're also published on the Florida Press Association, Florida Public Notice website as required by statute as well.
And when you say our website, are you referring to hometownnewsvolusia.com?
That is correct. Yeah.
So the legal notice that we're talking about here today, that was published on hometownnewsvolusia.com, correct?
That is correct. Mhm.
And was that published on July 7th of 2023 as well?
Yes, because we actually use an RSS feed. So the day it publishes is the day it automatically feeds to the site.
And so on July 7th, 2023, it was also published to floridapublicnotices.com.
That is actually, it does the night before about midnight, but yes, it's the same time. Yeah. Mm.
Was the Belvedere notice published in the Hometown News Ormond Beach on July 7th, 2023?
Yes, it was.
You testified in some of the questions that before July 1st of 2023, it was more difficult to do Google Analytics. I think that's what you said.
It was, for instance, during the deposition, I gave some numbers for what the unique visitors were from Florida. But as you saw from my notes in the subsequent additional paperwork that I sent in December, that I only added the first 30 or 40 cities. I did not go through all 3,000 cities that were listed for each month and add them all together. Once I got to a certain point, I just knew that we were over the 10% threshold and stopped.
And that was my question. My next question was going to be, and I think you've answered it. It was more difficult to do it prior to July 1st, 2023, but you could and did still do it, correct?
Yeah, we did and still did do it. It's just that once you get, whether I'm over the 10% threshold by 1 or by 10,000, I'm over the threshold. So at that point, I just stopped adding these cities. Yes.
Can you please pull up Joint Exhibit 9, Bates number 396? Mr. Dugal, this is a joint exhibit, so can you please tell the court what this is?
That right there is a page from the, looks like the 2000 and I don't see a date on this one, but it's from our CVC audit for the Ormond Beach newspaper.
And this is specifically relating to the Ormond Beach edition of the Hometown News.
Yes, as of September 30th of 2021. Yes.
And what is this Circulation Verification Council?
According to statute, we have to have, because we don't use a mail permit, we have to have a circulation audit done by a verified outside vendor company that does that. There are two that are being used in Florida, to my knowledge, AAM and the CVC, the Circulation Verification Council. We use the CVC.
So the CVC is a certified independent third-party auditor.
Yes, that's correct.
And you mentioned something about 2021 or 2022. Is this document we're looking at does this contain the certification that the Hometown News would have needed through September of 2023?
It actually would be through December 31st of 2023. The audit goes from October 1st to September 30th for a 2-year period, but the time period for the being eligible goes from January 1st to December 31st. So it follows in the following quarter.
And just in layman's terms, that means there's an audit period where they're looking at what the Hometown News is doing, correct?
That is correct. We just to give you an example, we just finished our every 2-year audit. That started on October 1st, providing them with any information that the CVC needed. And that would have been approved and is now what we are operating under starting January 1st of 2024.
So the Circulation Verification Council
I'm listening.
So the Circulation Verification Council through this document was certifying the Hometown News' circulation biennially.
Yes,
Word,
every 2 years. Yes, every 2 years.
That's a better way to say it. I wish the statute said that. Let's go to Joint Exhibit 10, page 652. Please.
I'm in.
Go up one page. I think I might have written down the wrong page. There we go. Can you zoom in on that? Mr. Dougal, can you take a look at Joint Exhibit 10? And you see at the bottom, it says JNT and then a bunch of zeros and 651.
Yes, I see that. Those are my chicken scratches. Yes.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is this your handwriting?
It is. These are the notes that I had with me personally during the deposition, so that I had the numbers to go by for the online unique visitors for Florida.
And by the numbers to go by, is this information that you pulled off of Google Analytics?
That is correct. These are Google Analytics numbers.
And these are the numbers of unique Florida monthly visitors for hometownvolusia.com. Is that correct?
That is correct. I will caution that again, the January through June numbers would be skewed a little lower because I was only adding the first 40 to 50 cities together to get that number. So it would those actually would be higher, but the July, August, September, October, November numbers would be directly from Google Analytics, from the Florida number that they provide.
So just to make sure I understand, starting in July, you could select Show Me Everyone in Florida on Google Analytics.
That is
right?
correct. That
And
is correct.
prior to that, you had to add by city. So you just picked the most populous, how many cities?
Yeah, they come between 40 and 50. Just as I got to a certain number, I stopped because I knew I was well over. For instance, when you look at let's say March at 40,000, at that point with the Ormond Beach print numbers, we would be at almost 3 times the required amounts for the household incomes or households, not income, but the households for the county.
Right. Because the print circulation of the Hometown News Ormond Beach, as you testified, was about a little more than 19,000
Yes.
copies.
That's correct.
So in your analysis of this, you added that 19,000 to any of these monthly numbers to come to the total circulation.
Yes, according to 50.011 statute, yes. Mhm.
Counsel for petitioner showed you 3 documents that were all marked as affidavits previously. Do you remember that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again, please? Sorry.
Counsel for the petitioner in their questioning showed you 3 different documents that all said Hometown News affidavits on them, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
you recall that. And there was one which you signed
Yes,
of those 3. And I think you testified to this, but maybe not. Was that signed after your deposition?
it was.
Okay.
Yes.
And on that same date as your deposition, was the deposition of Heather Donaldson also taken?
That's correct. Mhm.
And you were present as the representative of Hometown News for that deposition?
I was in the room. That's correct. Mhm.
Do you recall Ms. Donaldson stating several times on the record regarding questions about these numbers we just talked about? That's a Kirk question.
Mhm. Yes.
I have no further questions.
All right. Mr. Ulo, anything further for Mr. Dougal?
Judge, I have one, maybe 2, but can I have 30 seconds to go to talk to my co-counsel?
I'll give you a whole minute. How's that?
A minute would be wonderful. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Judge, we're available. We're ready, I think.
Okay.
Just thank you, Mr. Dougal, for your time. Just a couple of points, a couple of questions. The prior exhibit was joint 10, I think it was, showed the handwritten notes.
Mhm.
And I believe you told us basically you had pulled that together for us for the deposition because you wanted to give us more information. Is that correct?
That is correct. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. And then the other information that you provided with the Google Analytics was supplemented the record after that.
That is correct. Mhm.
For the record, those pages, just so everyone has references to them, are joint exhibits 10, Bates pages, joint 651 and 652. And we have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. That cause any further questions for Mr. Dougal, or may he be excused? Sounds like Mr.
Nothing.
Dougal.
No questions from DEP.
Sounds like you are done for the day, Mr. Dougal. I appreciate your attendance today. Since you are no longer an active witness in this proceeding, you're certainly welcome to stick around and watch as much or as little of the remainder of this proceeding as you would like. But your further participation is excused. And if you're here under subpoena, your obligations under that subpoena are also extinguished. So thank you, sir.
Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. Who's up next? Looks like we're getting close to them. We have Emily Schwartz and a corporate representative of the Volusia County Property Appraiser. Who's next for questioning?
Petitioner doesn't have any more witnesses, Judge.
All right. So petitioner has rested. Mr. Don Kiescu, anything further for Belvedere?
Judge, based on the testimony and the joints, the hard work we were all able to do to get the documents into joint exhibits, I don't think we need to call either of those final two witnesses. So I think we are good.
All right, Mr. Reynolds, anything further on behalf of the department?
No, Your Honor.
All right, well, that looks like then we have come to the conclusion of the evidentiary portion of this proceeding. Let me make sure that I have everything that I need or that has been received in evidence. So I show having been received in evidence joint exhibits 1 through 10 and petitioners exhibit 1, 2, and 4. And that appears to be it. Does that correspond to everybody else's notes?
This is Aaron Dunlap for the petition, Your Honor. That appears correct from our notes.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. All right. Well, I understand a transcript of this proceeding is going to be ordered. Ms. Wrenchen, any sense for how long it might take to get that transcript to the parties?
Let's say the 31st.
All right. I have lots of writing to do, Ms. Wrenchen, so feel free to take your time. I want to make sure everything's accurate. Check it twice. So, all right. So transcript roughly the end of the month.
Who was it that ordered it? Was it Mr. Yulo?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I will note that the department is also the cause of much of my writing. So, all right. So roughly the end of the month, the standard time for filing proposed orders is 10 days from the date of the filing of the transcript. Is that going to give everybody enough time to prepare proposed recommended orders?
Plenty for the department, Your Honor.
We will make it work, Your Honor.
All right.
We will too.
All right. If you need more time, file a motion. I'll be more than happy to give it consideration. 40 pages enough for everyone to adequately present their arguments?
More than enough for the department, Your Honor. I will try to keep it brief.
All right.
I think it's fine.
It'll be enough for the petitioner, Your Honor.
All right. Very good. All right. So 10 days from the filing of the transcript will be the date for the filing of proposed recommended orders. When the transcript is filed, I'll send out a status order that will establish the date, and then 40 pages. And I will get to work on this. And I think I've given you all a couple of assignments as we've gone through this, things I've found to be interesting, particularly in terms of the notice of application, I believe was one of the issues that I had some question about. There was another, I guess the standing of the parties for determining whether or not an affidavit is something that would cause a otherwise properly issued notice to be suspended in its effect, I guess might be as good a way of putting it as I can come up with. So those are things I'm interested in, and there may be plenty of other things. I'm not intending to limit the parties in any way on what you want to give me. I'm anxious to see this an interesting issue. I think there's some issues here I haven't seen before, so that's always interesting. So with that,
Judge, can I ask a question?
yes, sir.
Yeah, so one of the issues that you mentioned, is that as I wrote down, the 120.569P, is that the?
Well, that's
the-
another issue is,
Yeah.
does 125.69.2P cause the burden to shift for
Right.
something like a procedural notice issue? Obviously it does for substantive. I mean, anything in the department's permitting file that's of substance is subject, but the issue of whether notice has been properly given, I think that's a good sub issue for both parties to explore and to give me some guidance on.
Might need 3 extra pages.
If you need more pages, you let me know. So, all right. Anything else that we need to take up today?
There you go.
All right.
There
Well,
you
with
are.
that, then we stand adjourned. Thank you all, and I look forward to getting your orders sometime in February, maybe
Thank
just
you,
in time
Judge.
for Valentine's Day. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you.